Welcome everyone to our Ideas Edition podcast, and in this episode, we have the one and only Jimmy Feliciano. He is the Vice President of Sales for Devoted Health Plans in Florida. How are you today, Jimmy?
I'm doing well, George. Thanks for the invite. It's always great to connect with you and talk with you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation. And I have a lot of questions. We want to learn what you do for the industry, especially in the Medicare landscapes. So first, let's go ahead and get started and tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, how did you grow up, how you got started in the insurance business.
Yeah, no, thanks for the question. By the way, congratulations. Idea Insurance is doing some phenomenal things in the industry, and it's really great to see your growth. So really impressed by it, by your hard work and everything you've been able to do. I've been in a Medicare insurance space for about 17 years.
Wow.
And the way I got into the business is really interesting. I had my own mortgage and real estate business about 18, 19 years ago. And when the crash happened in the subprime markets, I was without work.
That was like 2008, 2009?
Yeah, wow. That's right. And it was probably one of the hardest things in my life because I was without work for about a year to 2 years. I couldn't find work. I couldn't find anything to support my family. By the way, I'm married 21 years this year.
Wow, congratulations.
Thanks to God. Yeah.
I think I saw that in the social media. So that is awesome. 21 years.
Yeah, 21 years. And I have 4 boys.
Wow, you got to tell me the trick, man. I got 2 boys. And
man,
it's hard.
It's a blessing. Yeah, it's hard and it's also rewarding as well.
It is. Wow.
So back then, having kids, having a wife, my wife's a stay-at-home mom. Mm-hmm. And she homeschools all of our boys, which is pretty phenomenal in and of itself.
Wow.
And back then, being without work, not having the ability to provide for my family was a very difficult experience. And someone told me about Medicare Advantage sales, and I said, you know what, I should look into that. I got my insurance license and started selling individual health products and life insurance.
Like under 65?
Under 65.
Okay.
And I heard this company called Citrus, MA plan that was around back when I started, had an open position for a sales agent role. And so I went for it and got the opportunity. And I said to myself, Lord, if you help me, I'll provide for my family through this.
Wow.
And have been doing it ever since. Wow.
Since then, you've been in that landscape.
In Medicare Advantage, yeah. And you know what? That first year was really phenomenal. It was a really interesting time in the MA business. There was a lot of growth happening in this space. And I remember when I started, my manager at that time said, here's the Medicare and You book, Jimmy. Go learn it and go make sales, right?
That was it.
That was my training initially. And I took it upon myself. I was hungry. I needed to provide for my family, and this was a great way to help people and also make a great living. And so I got to work, and that first year, George, believe it or not, I wrote over 500 applications.
500?
Over 500 that first year in the MA business.
Oh, my God. So you got to tell me a little bit more about that, because right now, I think our best agent does between 200 and 300, maybe in a unique year. So how were you able to do 500, man? I know you were hungry, but
I was hungry. Yes, that was the critical part, right? Yeah. That I was motivated. I had hungry children. I had a family I had to support. And I got out there working, 60, 70, 80-hour weeks. That's pounding the pavement, prospecting. Back then, you could do a little bit more. The CMS guidelines were a little looser back then. You could cold call back then. So I was cold calling folks over the phone. And then I was working with the provider groups locally and really built a niche in that relationship space with providers. And before I knew it, I had leads coming in from all over the place, from all the seeds I was planting in the industry and in the market. And man, it just took off.
Wow. And that's amazing that you said that, because all these sales, but what effort did it take, right? And And most likely you didn't see that the first couple of months. You were just planting seeds, and then it's like boom, you start getting the results. And working
That's right.
60 to 80 hours a week, that's key, folks. Like if you really want to make this happen, it's hard work. There's no shortcuts, right, Jimmy?
No shortcuts. It takes a lot of hard work, planning. It takes being strategic, assessing what you're doing well, what you're not doing well, making adjustments when necessary, and staying out there in front of people, because most of this is a numbers game. You have to be in front of enough people, and hopefully enough of those are interested in what you have to offer. And hopefully you have a solution for enough of those to actually get to the sales numbers that you're targeting.
Awesome. And Jimmy, were you born here in the U.S. or how did you grow up? Can
Yeah,
you tell us a little bit about that?
Good question. So I'm Nuyorican.
Nuyorican, awesome.
Nuyorican.
Awesome.
I was brought up in the South Bronx and born in the South Bronx, and spent my first 12 years in the Bronx. That was an interesting place to grow up, and I could tell you a lot of stories about New York. And after that, my family and I moved to Bridgeport, Connecticut. And I was there for about 6 years.
Okay.
And then came here to Orlando for school and met my wife here, and the rest is history.
Awesome. All right. So and then you started in the mortgage industry, worked a little bit there until the crash, and
That's
then
right.
you got started on the Medicare.
Yeah, so my father owned a mortgage company, and everything I've learned about sales, I've actually learned it from my dad. He was in the car industry for 13, 14 years. He was always a top salesperson. And when he got into the mortgage industry, I was in college. He told me to come and learn from him and to watch him sell and overcome objections and close transactions. And I did. And, awesome. It was really impactful to see my dad overcome all the objections that he would get at the closing table, and seeing him actually close those deals.
Wow.
Especially when I thought it was impossible based upon some of the objections. So a lot of what I've learned in the sales side of things, I've learned from my dad.
That's amazing. Let's dive in more into sales and marketing, just so that we can give some tips to our agents. You dropped some amazing bombs already, but and since Citrus, you've been on the Medicare Advantage landscape, right? Okay, so in building a book of business and finding clients and doing a presentation and ending up, helping them with a health plan and getting the sale, what processes did you have in place? And then that's the first question. And then what was more important to you back then? Marketing or knowing how to sell or how to close?
Yeah, some really great questions. And I would say that maybe starting with your second question and working backwards to the first one, I would say if you're going to be successful in this business and grow your book of business well, you have to wear two hats. One hat is marketing and one hat is sales. And you have to do both well to actually excel in this business. But I would tell you that maybe the most important one, at least initially for an agent, is marketing.
Okay.
Because
Excellent.
you can't close anything if you're not getting in front of people, right? You need prospects in your pipeline to actually grow your book of business. And even the worst salesperson will actually close deals if they have people to get in front of.
That's so true.
So I think that's the biggest struggle that most agents have, is actually generating prospects. If you can figure out how to generate prospects with your marketing hat, then you can improve as a salesperson, because it turns out that with some practice, you learn how to overcome objections, you learn how to tell the story better, you learn how to figure out what the proper needs and solutions are for prospects. And the better you get at that, the better you get at closing and overcoming objections. So I would say that marketing as a first is probably the most important thing for a newbie. But over time, being able to close and overcome objections and knowing how to go through the needs analysis and listening to the prospect is the key thing. Understanding who they are and understanding what they need so that you could find a proper fit for them is super critical.
Awesome. Awesome. And I agree with you thoroughly, Jimmy. I have agents that say, well, if you give me the lead, I'll close it out. Right. But then they're losing out so much because they're losing maybe the potential learning opportunity on the presentation to improve on sales. Right. Maybe they think they're already great and they just need the lead, but they can be more productive if they also wear the marketing hat, like you said. So I love the way that you answered that question. Talking about Medicare Advantage and what this plan does for the clients. So how are they, since you started, you've been on it for a long time, even longer than me. How does Medicare Advantage plans and the industry improve our seniors' life, our clients' lives?
George, that's a great question. And I've been doing this for 17, 18 years. And I'm convinced that Medicare Advantage is a great solution for many seniors, especially because with Medicare Advantage, you get coordinated care. And you get a bunch of extra benefits. You get basically a health plan to support you in your healthcare endeavors. And what I love about Medicare Advantage, in conjunction with local PCPs that really have a proactive approach to care, is that you're catching big issues ahead of time, right? You're going through preventative care, preventative maintenance. And it turns out that by being more engaged in your healthcare process, which Medicare Advantage, along with managed care doctors, do very well, you actually increase the probability of living longer. Wow. You actually reduce a lot of issues that you might have later by catching them early, and you live a better quality life overall. So it's phenomenal to see how much this program has grown in the 18 years I've been in the business. Back when I started, the penetration rate for MA was somewhere around 35%. Today is 50% plus, and it's even higher in certain markets.
Wow. But is that nationwide average?
Nationwide average.
50%.
Yeah, 50%.
Wow.
So it's really interesting to see how much the program has grown. When you look at the preventative services and the supplemental benefits like dental, that's a big deal for a lot of seniors, and a lot of them can't afford it outside of a program like a Medicare Advantage plan. And that's helping a lot of seniors in a lot of different ways. So I'm a big proponent of MA. I really love what's happening within the industry. And there are a lot of great companies out there. I represent one of them, Devoted Health, a really phenomenal company. I've been with them 5 years, going on 6 years this May.
Okay.
And love the culture at Devoted, the mission-centric approach, the love that the company has for people, and the desire to really improve the well-being of our members. So it's been a phenomenal experience for me to be part of this industry.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Now, because of the fast growth, I understand the industry has grown some challenges. What do you think is the biggest challenge that Medicare Advantage plans are facing? And if you had the possibility to change it or improve it, what would you recommend?
Yeah, good question. There are challenges on the horizon, and trying to figure some of those out is critical. I think you'll see MA on the news a lot lately, especially with the elections coming up, and that's a big subject of discussion.
Oh, yes.
In Washington. So there are challenges on the horizon. A lot of it has to do with how do you actually reimburse Medicare Advantage plans? How do you do that so that we're saving money in the healthcare industry and healthcare spending? How do you do that while improving the proper results for seniors and getting them the care that they need and deserve? So there's a lot of questions around spending and how do you optimize and become more efficient while not cutting back the care that seniors deserve to receive. So I think that's some of the big questions that proponents and folks within the industry are having today. What would I change? I don't know that I would change anything today in terms of how MA works. I would love for more and more seniors to learn about MA and understand how it works, and understand that there's a lot of different types of MA plans out there. You have HMO, you have PPO, you have dual special needs plans for those who have lower income, you have chronic special needs plans for those who have chronic conditions. But it's also good that they have other options out there. So if MA is not the right fit for whatever reason for an individual, they can stay with traditional Medicare and get a supplement. I'm a big proponent of options so that people could find the thing that works best for them.
Awesome. And we do all of that here at The Insurance. Well, we can do the Medicare supplement and the prescription drug plan combination with an ancillary plan. MA just kind of bundles most of those benefits in one plan, which makes it easier for the senior to actually understand, right? But I agree with you, Jimmy. I believe there's still a lot of people out there that don't know all the value that an MA plan has to offer. So we're planning on keep doing that job and finding our Medicare clients, our Medicare seniors, and kind of helping with that. And going back to the sales and marketing, what are some tips you can give to the agent to actually find a new to Medicare or a Medicare Advantage prospect, or maybe just someone that it's already in the Medicare system, but they might not know what their options are?
Yeah, that's a great question. So going back to that, again, I think agents need to wear two hats. They need to wear a marketing hat and a sales hat. On the marketing side, I think marketing is both an artistic endeavor and also a scientific one. What I mean by that is, on the artistic side, you're trying to think through, how do I message the services that I offer better? How do I communicate that more effectively to the public, whether you're using digital media or at the grassroots level when you meet someone face to face? How do you actually message what you're doing effectively? So there's an art to marketing.
Awesome.
There's also a scientific side, and I always encourage folks to actually track their results. So for instance, if you put together a digital ad, which ad is actually effective at communicating the services that you provide, and which ad is actually generating buzz and generating leads, right? You want to be able to track your results so that you can actually do more of what's working. The same way at a tabletop or at a grassroots event, there's a certain way to say things. And you might want to think through 2 or 3 different ways to communicate at that event and see which one actually produces the best results at generating leads and interest and conversations about what you do. And so that's the science part. So the better you get at fine-tuning your message and the better you get at tracking what works, you'll actually be more efficient with your time and you'll actually generate more interest and more business over the long haul. So that marketing component, having that hat on and really understanding that you can actually hone your skills in this area is critical to being successful.
Wow.
And then the other part on the marketing side is you got to go where seniors are, right? Like that's a simple piece of advice. And so my motto is, wherever seniors eat, sleep, play, and pray are good spots to market yourself.
All right, well, hold on. You got to say that again.
Okay, yes. Wherever seniors eat, play, and pray are good spots to market.
Awesome. Love that. Love those strategies. Now, when you were in the field, marketing yourself, which of these things, and maybe you can say all of them, but which of these strategies worked the most for you? I know you already mentioned doctors' relationships, but what else do you have to do to kind of gain on this membership and grow your book of business?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. So I didn't tell you that I spent part of my time in this industry in Louisville, about 3 years, Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is how different the markets are. Florida is very different from Kentucky. Here in Florida, it's a saturated market, as you know, especially in Orlando. So you have tons of agents and tons of providers, and you have tons of folks doing tabletops at the pharmacy and at the retail center and going to the senior 55 plus community. So you have a lot of interesting activity. So I would say here in Orlando and in Florida, where I really cut my teeth and learned and grew in this business, it was all about the provider relationship.
Okay.
And not only, like, a lot of folks go into a provider's office and their first thing is like, give me business. They come with a hand asking for something. And you actually got to treat providers or any business entity like you would a traditional MA prospect. You do a needs analysis. You go in and you try to understand, what are this provider's pain points? What are the opportunities within this office? What can I offer that is a solution and a resource to this provider? When you come in with that mindset, it actually changes the dynamics. Not only will you better understand what the opportunities are within that office, but you could also be a resource to that provider. And sales is about being a resource. I think Zig Ziglar said, stop thinking about who to close and start thinking about how much you could help.
Yes.
And the more you help people, if you get that as your mindset, and the more you become a resource, the more people are going to look at you as a leader in the industry. And it turns out that's going to open a lot of doors. So if you approach providers that way,
wow,
it changes the dynamic of the relationship. And actually, you could actually help them grow. And it becomes a win-win situation, because as you're helping them grow, they're going to help you grow your business. So that worked for me here.
Wow.
In Florida, was that provider relationship. But I wasn't dependent only on that. I did a little bit of everything. I would say if you're a new agent, you start out with 30 events a month. I know that sounds crazy. It sounds like a lot. I know where you come from, so you understand that dynamic.
Yeah.
You start out with 30 events a month, so you can get some enrollments there, because you need numbers, right?
Exactly.
So you need to be wherever seniors are, so you can generate prospects, so you can try to sell some. So you need to be where seniors are. I would say that's part of it. The other part is building that provider relationship. That's more long-term. In the short term, you're not going to see the gains from that. You're going to see more gains from your events. That provider relationship will take time to fine-tune and work out and think through strategically, but it's going to pay huge dividends later, tomorrow. So you definitely want to keep working on that. While you're working on that, you want to build referral relationships. Wow. And so, like, who's coming in contact with seniors that is not selling MA, and how can you get a referral from each of those folks on a monthly basis? Think about it. If I get a referral from a realtor that deals within the senior markets once a month, if I get a referral from a PNC agent that doesn't sell Medicare Advantage, but they work within the senior markets, if I get one of those a month, what about a financial counselor that works with seniors and sells annuities? Maybe you're selling annuities as an agent, but it might be in your best interest to expand your relationships in that industry so you can get some referrals. So there are a number of places you can look for referrals that, like, if you get one a month from each of your sources and you're working those relationships well, plus your 30 events, plus your relationship with providers, before you know it, you're growing that business really, really, really fast.
Wow.
And that's the name of the game, right? You want to try to get, as a broker, you want to get to 300 to 400 lives as fast as possible.
Yep.
Because that's where the residual income is really nice, right? And then you want to continue to grow that book of business year over year. So here in Florida, it's all about short-term, long-term. You want to think about all of those opportunities. What was really interesting, I went to Louisville, Kentucky.
Tell me about that.
And no one was doing grassroots events.
No one.
And none of the doctors understand MA. It's a very different environment. So in Florida, the providers are sophisticated. They understand the Medicare Advantage value prop. They understand coordinated care, and they work closer with brokers and health plans and all of that. In Kentucky, it doesn't work that way. Actually, a lot of the provider groups aren't working closely or partnering closely with the health plans or brokers to grow their patient panel. In addition to that, none of the agents out there, back when I was there, were doing grassroots events. So you have a lot of seniors and no one is really marketing to them. So that was like a gold mine when I first went to Kentucky. And I was like, whoa, what an opportunity. And I was during lock-in, I was doing 25, 30 enrollments per month. And mind you, I wasn't a broker. So the numbers I've given you, even with my first year with the first company, I was a captive agent selling one plan.
One company.
One company. Imagine if I was a broker, I probably would have sold 1,000 that year. No lie. I've met with so many people.
Wow.
And in Kentucky, it was a similar thing. 25 to 30 enrollments per month as a captive agent when I first went there.
That is amazing.
Because no one was doing it. So every market is a little different.
Yeah.
Florida's saturated. You probably got to focus in a number of different directions so you can figure out what's going to work for you.
I love that, Jimmy. And in fact, some of my brokers got into that idea to explore other markets, and they are just killing it. So I know that, you have to start looking at Medicare Advantage, not only county size or regional size or even state size, but nation size, because the opportunity is nationwide.
And nowadays, a lot of seniors are buying over the phone, right? So using the phone and learning how to use the phone well and getting comfortable with it and building that skill set is going to be important for the future.
Definitely. What would you say were some of the biggest challenges agents have when starting in this industry?
Yeah, no, great question. I think, again, the biggest challenge is we want to see results immediately. And sometimes it takes some time to get results, right? It's you got to plant the seed, you got to water the seed, you got to till the ground, you got to keep working at it so you find what works for you. What works for you might be different for another person, right? And so be patient, take your time, speak to folks that know the business, partner with folks that know the business, learn as much as you can. And you don't only have to learn from the Medicare industry. Like, pick up sales books, read sales books. I encourage people to read 12 pages a day of any book. If you do that, you can read at least one book a month.
Awesome.
Right? If it's around 300 pages, that's 12 books a year. Read books about selling and closing and marketing and overcoming objections and healthcare and insurance. Read, learn what you can, because at the end of the day, as a salesperson, you're the expert.
You are.
And the only way you're going to improve your business is if other people see you as the expert in the industry. So take ownership of your business, learn it, so that when you speak from a position of knowledge and experience. People will respect that. And when people see leadership and expertise, they tend to want to do business with you.
Awesome. I love that you said that, Jimmy, because I believe in order to grow as a person, not only financially, professionally, but personally as well, you got to read books. And I think the position that some of us have right now, where we achieve kind of some level of success, right? We're not where we want to be, but we're getting there. And I believe it's because we are constantly improving ourselves through reading or watching maybe a podcast like this. I think that adds a lot of value to the learning part and to become the expert. So what would you say were some of those books that, oh man, this book was really good and really did help me when I was building my book of business?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love books, so there are a bunch of books running through my mind.
If you can mention a few of them, that would be great. Yeah,
I'll share one that I think is super helpful for salespeople. I didn't necessarily read this 17 years ago, but I think is super helpful. It's called Rejection Proof.
Rejection Proof.
Rejection Proof. Salespeople are afraid of rejection. Right? Rejection is a fear we all have.
Yeah, nobody likes people that said no to them. Right?
Exactly. And so a lot of times, I remember early on, I would think twice about picking up the phone and making a phone call because I was afraid of rejection.
No, I'm not interested.
Or at an event where there were a bunch of seniors passing through, I would think 2 or 3 times before I actually engaged them initially, because I was thinking, what if they reject me or say no? And so it turns out, if you're going to be a great salesperson, you have to live with the fact that you're going to get rejected most of the time.
Yeah.
Right? Most of the time.
And I think in any sales profession, you got to go through the same process in your mindset. Right. Wow. So that book.
So what's great about this book is it wasn't written for the purposes of becoming a better salesperson, the person who wrote it.
Okay.
They wanted to overcome their fear of rejection, and in order to get there, they started this experimentation where they would ask for outrageous things that they knew was going to generate a no. And so, for instance, the author would go to someone's house, knock on the door, and say, "Hey, I'm practicing my soccer skills. Would you lend me your backyard so I can practice my soccer skills?" So the author did this, and you could actually track the author through YouTube doing this. Like he tracks his journey through all these rejections that he received. Or he'll go into like a Krispy Kreme and ask for something outrageous for a donut, like a specific type of donut, but ask for all sorts of ingredients that were outrageous. And it turns out that over time, he learned how to overcome the objections and the denials that he received. He took away some important principles about how to engage and ask the question, how to frame the question, how to go from a harder question to a lesser ask, a higher ask to a lesser ask. So he has all of these anecdotal stories and principles he learned through his journey of becoming rejection proof, not being afraid of rejection. So I would say if you're a salesperson that's a veteran, or if you're a new salesperson, like you probably struggle to some degree with rejection. You need to pick up this book and read it. I could not put it down. I mean, it was so good. It's one of those books that you're like, read it. I try to read 12 pages a day, but you're like, man, I got to read another 12. And then when you get to the end of that, it's like, I got to read another 12. Wow. And you just get through it right away. And it's actually a short book. It's maybe around 200 pages, maybe. Wow. So I'd encourage folks to pick that one up. It's really great.
Awesome. I love that. And I think it's going to help a lot of our brokers because, you know, honestly, that's the, I think they don't make more phone calls and schedule more appointments because they're afraid of rejection, or they don't get the results they want at a tabletop because they don't talk to everybody at the tabletop. So, wow. Thank you for that bomb, Jimmy. I think that was great. Tell me, who has been the most influential person in your life and what did you learn from them?
That's a great question, and I am going to be candid and vulnerable and honest with you. So as a kid, when I moved to Bridgeport with my mom, someone came and knocked on our door, and they told us about the Lord. They told us about the Lord, and it was the first time I was invited to an evangelical church.
Wow.
In Bridgeport, Connecticut.
How long ago was this?
This was when I was 12. So
12. Okay. All right.
It was a long time ago. and this person actually took my mom and me aside and started teaching us about who Christ was and the gospel.
Awesome, man.
And that completely changed the trajectory of my life.
Wow.
So I grew up in the ghetto, in the Bronx.
I can imagine.
I grew up around drugs and violence. And this person pouring into us Christ, and his word transformed my life and where I was headed from that point on. And so I would say that person had a huge impact. And there have been other people that have had huge impact. My youth pastor during that time had a huge impact in my life. Other pastors that, I'm speaking from the spiritual side because I really do believe a person came to Jesus once and said, "Hey, what's the most important commandment in the law?" And he said, "To love the Lord your God with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second one is like it, to love your neighbor as yourself." So my relationship with God is the most important thing to me. And so there are folks that have been great at discipling, that have taught me a lot about the Lord and have impacted me as a husband, as a father, and as a businessman. Because even when I think about leadership and when I think about sales, I think about Jesus. And I know that sounds weird.
No,
but this is what I mean by that. Like, if you look at the way Jesus trained up his future leaders, the disciples who became the apostles of the church.
Yeah, the 12 disciples.
The 12. He had a show me leadership. He had a servant leadership. So he would tell them to do something, but he would show them how to do it first. He went out preaching, and then he sent them to go out preaching.
Wow.
And so he was the example, and he was a servant leader. Yeah. And so I've always tried to model my leadership after the Lord in that respect, because there's nothing like serving others and helping them achieve their potential and get to where they need to get to. And so I would say the gospel transforming my heart, my life, the truth about the death the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus.
Awesome.
That is the primary influence in my life, and that's what shaped my thinking and who I am today.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. And I'm so glad you got presented that at 12. I had to wait a long time to know about that, and it's amazing. And servant leadership, there's a different type of leaderships, but servant leadership, for me also, I believe is the best type of leadership a person can have, because you're leading from the front.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're leading with that servant attitude, you're not arrogant, you don't think you know it all, and you're not pushing others. I think it's great, because things will grow. And thank you for sharing that, Jimmy.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you asking.
All right. Last question. If you will have the Jimmy, the 25-year-old Jimmy with you, what advice would you give that Jimmy?
That's a great question. And I think we've talked a lot about what that might look like. I would tell that Jimmy that hard work pays off, that learning is a part of life, and you should always seek to grow and learn more, that listening is better than talking.
Ooh.
Early Jimmy liked to talk a lot, or I should say younger Jimmy liked to talk a lot. But it's actually a lot better to listen and to ask questions. Mm-hmm. There's actually so much you can learn from the people around you, even from the people that you would think maybe they don't have something they can offer me. There's something they can offer you that they've experienced in life. I would say that I would tell that Jimmy that it's more important to succeed at home than to succeed in the workplace.
Wow.
That is better to have the esteem of your wife and kids than it is to have the esteem of the public.
Wow. Wow.
I would tell that Jimmy to work hard and to learn and to apply yourself, that it all pays off in the end.
Wow. Awesome, man. Awesome. All right. You've been so inspirational, not only to me right now, but I'm pretty sure the audience. And thank you so much for sharing all these words that I know it comes from your heart.
And I have to say, you inspire me every day. Every time I see one of your podcasts, or I see how your insurance agency has grown, or just the energy and love you pour into the agents that you recruit and work with. There aren't a lot of great people in the business. It turns out that you're a very special person, you and your wife and this company. And I'd encourage agents to learn more about this company. And I think this is a great home for them to grow as an agent and learn all the skills they need to be successful.
Yeah. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you. You've been wonderful. Thank you so much again for being here, Jimmy. And also the audience out there. Wasn't this great? This interview was just absolutely amazing. And hope you got a lot of value from this interview. And we're going to go ahead and keep doing this. I can't wait until you guys see who our guest. Our next guest is on our next Idea Editions episode podcast. So have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you on the next episode. Take care.